What is up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new video. The taper for the Vermont 100 has officially started. Man, and I really need it. I have been hitting some high volume. I got pretty sick. I got clinical pneumonia and a resulting asthma attack. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the video, but I wanted to give you guys a glimpse in what I've been doing since that last ultramarathon, since that's been really the last video that I posted. I've been really putting my head down and putting in the work, trying to make sure that I get that high volume and getting all my runs in. It has been pretty much a part-time job. I've been running, when I do run, about 3 hours a freaking day, sometimes 2 times a day. And then for my long runs, it's been around 4 hours, 3.5 to 4 hours. So it has been a lot of work. Oh, and it's 6 days a week. I've been only really taking 1 day off. So I've been putting in a lot of work, taking up a lot of time, and unfortunately, the YouTube and the content creation kind of fell to the wayside. But I'm back. I'm pretty sure that I got the schedule down, I got the running down, so after this, I should be able to be a lot more consistent on these ultramarathons. I know I say that after every single freaking time, but I think I'm getting my schedule down. Sorry. I've been drinking this adult beverage, and it's coming up a little bit. All right, so let's jump right back into it. I had to take a quick break for a laugh session about that burp. I guess my wife heard me almost dying and burping like an asshole. So let's jump right into Strava. Let's go into right where we left off from our last video, which was the Manchester to Monadnock 55-mile ultramarathon. I was very happy with the result of that ultramarathon, and I actually cut off about, I forgot what I cut off. I think like 2 to 3 hours in 1 year of training, just based off of, knowing my body a little bit more, had a little bit more experience in the ultramarathon realm, and then also really putting up my mileage for my training in the 2022 season. So I was actually really surprised on how good I felt during the Manchester to Monadnock ultramarathon, and I wanted to keep that rolling once again. I made sure that I took that week off to make sure my body was really, really recovered leading into this new training block leading up to the 100-miler. So after that week off, I kind of went back into normal training. I didn't want to do anything crazy and go right back up to that 100-mile training like I wanted to, or like kind of push my body a little bit too fast. I wanted to get a couple weeks of normal training in just to make sure if there were any deep set like injuries or soreness or anything like that, they wouldn't become major problems. So I took 2 weeks and I just did 70-mile weeks, kind of the normal training, took a day off, kept it a little bit easy. I did a couple workouts where I did some speed workouts and some hill climbing and everything like that, but nothing too serious. Once I knew my body was ready and primed and fully recovered, ready to go, I pushed it up to that 100-mile a week volume. And this is when training kind of got a little bit crazy. What I was doing was pretty much every other single day, I would do two a days, where I would try to get out in the heat as much as possible to somewhat acclimatize to running in the heat, because the Vermont 100 is in July and it could be super freaking hot during that race. So I made sure I tried to get out as much as possible and did 2 a days, where I would be running once for about an hour and a half during work. I would either start work early or I would stay late and then do it during the lunchtime when the sun is at the highest, so then I get that nice training effect in the heat. Or if it was like way too crappy out, I'd just go on the treadmill. So kind of got it in an hour and a half during work time. Once I got off of work, we would eat dinner, play around with the babies, relax a little bit, kind of recover, drink as much water and electrolytes as I could. And then once the babies were down, usually around 8 p.m., I would head down to the treadmill or outside and get the second run in, which would be around an hour to an hour and a half. So I would end up getting on those long days about 3 hours to 3.5 hours of actual training stimulus during that day, ending up being around like 20 miles a day when I did the 2-a-days. And then leading into the easy days, I would still do like about an hour and a half, try to get it during the day, trying to run the same elevation amount per mile as the Vermont 100, and then staying on the side of the roads, because the Vermont 100 is mostly packed gravel, and on the side of our roads it's packed gravel. So it's really similar terrain and really rolling hills where I live, and same thing with the Vermont 100. One of the big problems with training this much is when you actually go out and go to trails and go to, other places to actually run, that adds an hour, adds freaking 2 hours of driving time, of prep time, of packing and everything like that. And instead of running 3 hours a day, you could end up running 5 hours a day with all the travel and everything like that. So I made sure that I stayed right around my local area, right around exactly where I lived, so I could get the training done. I could get the volume done. I had to get a little bit inventive to get the elevation gain that I needed. So a lot of running in circles and running in circles over and over again. I found this one community that has a really good, like, 7% grade hill, where it's about 0.6 of a mile all the way around. So you get about a quarter mile to 0.3 of incline at at 7% grade. And I just kind of hammered it up and down, hammered it up and down and up and down. And instead of kind of doing intervals on it, I just try to keep my heart rate steady. So running up steady and then running down steady, but a little bit faster, where my heart rate was about at 145, that zone 2 area, and just really getting my body ready for running those rolling hills up and down, and my muscles ready. So I've heard a lot about the Vermont 100, where a lot of people get their quads blown out because there's a lot of downhill running. And if you don't practice that downhill running, your muscles and your quads won't be able to actually properly get developed. Opposed from that, I made sure that I hit as many miles as possible. I hit 3 100-mile weeks. I hit 3 100-mile weeks in a row, and I was increasing the mileage for my long runs during the weekend every single week. Now, one thing that I did do for my long runs was I would do about 20 to 21 miles outside, and then I would jump right onto the treadmill to force my body into a sustained pace. Well, one thing that I've always had a problem with running in general is just maintaining a steady pace. I'm kind of a rubber banner, where I go fast and then slow, and then fast and then slow. And what I really wanted to do is kind of stay consistent during the whole run, or as much as possible. So when my legs got tired, I wanted to force myself to have that sustained pace. So I kind of forced myself to do that on the treadmill. I made sure that I monitored my heart rate really well and monitored my actual effort really well. And I was able to sustain pretty easily at that sustained pace on the treadmill when I was being forced to do it. The first time I did it, it was about 3.5 miles. And then the next time it was about 9 miles. So I ended up doing about 30 miles total for my longest long run. And that was a back-to-back, where on Friday I did 20 miles. And then right after that, I did a back-to-back, kind of in reverse order, the 30 miles with 21 miles outside and then 9 miles on the treadmill of sustained pace. And man, I was pretty freaking smoked after that run. After 3 weeks of running 100 miles every week, I was pretty freaking dead. So after that big 30-mile long run, that's when things started getting a little bit sketchy. On Sunday, I felt a little bit tight in the chest. Ever since the Manchester to Monadnock Ultramarathon, my lungs have been kind of being beat up, or just not at 100%. And I thought it was just because of the pollen. Sometimes when I take in a lot of pollen, my lungs get a little wheezy, and they kind of are working around at 80%, not too bad. I can work through it. It's just something that I've always had to deal with. But they've really started affecting me after this 30-mile run. I got in a couple more runs the week after that 30-miler, but I could really feel something was going on. I stayed on the treadmill for the most part and tried to make sure that I was taking in the least amount of pollen as possible. But then on Wednesday, it kind of came to a head where I was waking up and I could barely even freaking breathe. My lungs were probably at like a quarter capacity, or that's what it felt like. They were at a quarter capacity. I was having the really short breaths, like I couldn't take a full breath without hacking and coughing and everything like that. So the last two runs on Thursday and Friday, I was kind of sucking, still breathing. On Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I was waking up in the middle of the night, coughing and hacking and not being able to breathe that well. And on pretty much Saturday, I had to make sure that I went to the hospital to see what the heck was going on. When I got to the hospital, I once again had about 1/4 lung capacity, really freaking sucking. I knew what this feeling felt like before. When I was really young, I had asthma that was brought on only by cats and cigarette smoke. So whenever I went to a friend's house, I would call my mom in the middle of the night and just be like gasping for air and wheezing, and I'd have to go to the hospital and get albuterol, the nebulizer, and everything like that. And it would usually work itself out in about a week. So I knew exactly what I was feeling, and I knew I was kind of having an asthma attack just like I was with the cats. And I thought it was once again the pollen. So I went to like a urgent care unit and they sent me over to the ER. I ended up having to get a nebulizer. There, and they started treating me for clinical pneumonia. Clinical pneumonia. They said that I might have gotten a bacterial upper respiratory infection that brought on an asthma attack, an episodic asthma attack, as they call it. So they put me on a Z-Pack and which a Z-Pack is antibiotics and some steroids. It's either antibiotics and steroids. It's either flipping, but I got on some antibiotics and a steroid, and then they also gave me albuterol inhaler. So yeah, I have an inhaler. I'll be running around going, just puffing along. But the Z-Pack really knocked it out. I asked the doctor, they scanned my lungs, they scanned my heart, my veins, they scanned everything. Everything was 100%. They just said that upper respiratory disease, or that upper respiratory infection just brought on a really bad asthma attack. So I asked the doctor when I should be able to run. She said give it a couple days, and if your lungs feel good or if you feel up to it, then you can slowly start introducing more running. I took 2 full days off on Saturday and Sunday, and by Monday I was pretty much good to go. I mean, I wanted to make sure that my body, or like I wasn't being crazy or being too stupid. So I stayed on the treadmill, made sure I wasn't inhaling a bunch of pollen and all that crap. And if I had to stop, I was ready and willing to stop as soon as possible. Or I was ready and willing to stop as soon as my lungs started giving me problems. But the Z-Pack knocked out whatever was going on in my body. The inhaler really helped open up my lungs. And I'm basically 100% now. I still got a little bit of cough, but it should be gone by the Vermont 100. I have 2 weeks left, plus the amount of time that I took off when I was actually having that issue. So I knew I was going to take a 3-week hard taper for the Vermont 100. But with the last week's being only about 50 miles, my legs were already starting to bounce back. And that was something that really surprised me. Even being sick and coughing my ass off and not sleeping that well because I was coughing my ass off that whole week, my freaking legs were feeling absolutely amazing. So I went back up to 100 miles a week and kept it pretty easy. I mean, all these runs except for 1 or 2 were actually on the treadmill in a really controlled environment. Same pace. I didn't do really any workouts. I did some hill repeats. I did 5% surges for 5 minutes on a couple of these to get some elevation gain and make sure my muscles were nice and primed to get ready for climbing. But I just wanted to make sure there was a little bit of rust on my legs before I start this taper. So when I got to the Vermont 100, my legs weren't fully in recovery mode and, fully asleep. So hit it hard on the treadmill that week. I got the clearance from the doctors. I got the clearance from everybody. All the scans and everything were 100% good. The doctor said I was good to go. And I hit it hard last week. Got up to 104 miles, and now it is time to taper. So there we have it. That's where I've been. That's what I've been doing. I've been absolutely crushing the training, hitting these high mileage. I'm super excited about getting into the Vermont 100. I'm going to be releasing a few videos leading up to the Vermont 100 just because I have to do something on my free time or else I'm going to go absolutely insane. All this energy that I got from doing this high mileage, I feel like a freaking crackhead not running. Like, I'm used to running about 3 hours a day now. And now that I'm not running or only running once a day for like 5 miles, I'm like going freaking insane. And I have to be calm. I have to let my body taper. I can feel the soreness, I can feel my body coming back. So I have to make sure that I'm distracting myself. So hopefully these videos will help me not go out there and do anything crazy and get the running in. But that's what I've been up to. Pretty much all I've been up to is just running this entire time that I've been off YouTube. I've been crushing the mileage. I've been putting in the work, and hopefully it pays off for the Vermont 100. I'm going to be solo in the Vermont 100. My crew and my backup crew aren't able to actually make it down to the Vermont 100. So I'm going to go full savage mode, go out there in my van, sleep in my van, only rely on drop bags and whatever's on the aid station, and do this completely solo. So I'm going to make some videos kind of revolving around the solo 100-mile ultramarathon running portion of this. And then I got a couple other videos coming. I am actually officially part of the Team Ultra brand ambassador, so I get some shoes half off. I got a couple more shoes that I actually have to do some reviews on. I got some other military style videos that I'm going to be releasing. I think this whole ultramarathon lane and this whole ultramarathon world is an amazing opportunity for veterans to actually have a mission, have a drive, and have something that they can really work towards. Other than that, just make sure that you're going out there, chipping away, becoming an average savage. It doesn't matter if you have a 9 to 5, if you have kids, you can cut out your lunch break. You can go out and run in the freaking 90-degree weather. You can put your kids to bed and go run in the middle of the night with a headlamp on, shining in people's houses, coughing because your lungs are seizing up. It doesn't fucking matter. Who the fuck cares what other people think? As long as you're working towards your goals, as long as you're pushing hard, as long as you're doing everything that you fucking can to complete that motherfucking mission, go out there and do it. Crush it. Seek pain and earn your motherfucking comfort. Let's go get some McDonald's. Let's go get some fucking beer. Let's go get some, whatever your vice may be. You earn that shit by crushing your goddamn goals, seeking pain. Let's go fucking get it. Oh my God. Anyways, let's get right into
Are you ready for Rick and Morty?
I'm getting sweaty. Oh my God. Oh.